Good afternoon, welcome to Blaise Cooks. I'm Blaise, your host, and today we're going to make apple pie. I've been doing a lot of savory dishes as you've seen on some of my videos, and today I'm going to do a sweet dish. But both my savory dishes and today's sweet dish are what I consider comfort food. Now apple pie, you can't get more American than that, and I don't know if you can get much more comfort out of desserts than apple pie. So let's get started. I got my trusty Cuisinart. If you haven't bought one yet, I highly recommend you do so because you can do so many things with them. And I've already put 2.5 cups of all-purpose unbleached flour in the bowl here, and I've also put in 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I'm going to process this briefly. I'm basically just mixing the salt with the flour so it doesn't clump together, and I'm also going to put in 1/4 cup of sugar. I could have done that together, folks. A little unnecessary step there. And we're going to process that. We're just mixing it in together to make sure it all blends well throughout the flour. Now I have an egg here, a whole egg, beaten with 2 tablespoons of cold water. I'm just going to drizzle that on the top. This isn't often a typical ingredient, the egg in a pâté brisé. A lot of the dough recipes or crust recipes you'll see in cookbooks, they don't have an egg in it. You don't have to put it in. I just like to do it. It sort of assures that my crust is going to bind a little better, give it more of a golden color after it's baked as well. Now that's mixed in there, and now we're going to put in, of course, the other significant ingredient, and it's 2 sticks of butter. Now I had this butter in the freezer, and I let it sit out because I actually don't want frozen butter, but I want very cold butter. So I got my hands a little buttery here. Get rid of that. And I'm going to just process this until you can hear it's pretty hard. It's still a little frozen, but that's okay. You want to do it until it's like, as they say, coarse cornmeal or breadcrumbs. And I think that looks pretty good. Just drizzle in a little water and start pulsing it. It's already clumping together. That's enough. Don't want to have too much water in there. And we're just going to dump it out. And this is going to be enough to make 2 crusts, the bottom and the top. So it's a covered apple pie, the way most of us, I think, are used to seeing them. And I'm going to get my dough scraper, another trusty, useful tool. I'm going to push them aside about as equally as I can. And now I'm going to smear, and I'll show you that up close. I'm going to smear each pile, and I'm just going to use the heel of my hand. I'm just going to start at the leading edge of this dough, and I'm just smearing it out. And you can actually see the butter. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it starts making streaks through the dough. And those ribbons and whatever little beads of butter I miss are going to essentially create the flakiness in the dough. I wrap the balls in plastic wrap and I flatten them into discs. I'm going to put them in the fridge now, let them get a little chilly. And I already have 2 that have been in the fridge for 4 hours. You want them a little cold so that they don't stick to the rolling pin. Now 4 hours is a long time, so I actually want them to warm up just a bit. And while they're warming up, we're going to do the apples. Now I actually did much of the apple work in advance, which is okay. I'm going to show you what I do with one apple. I just pare it by hand, and it's simple. You just take the paring knife around the apple, and you lose a little apple this way, but it's quick. I just take it off with my paring knife, and I take the bottoms off, and then I just go around it, around the core, like that. I get basically 2 big chunks, or excuse me, 4 big chunks. I take a little bit more off there, and then I take it out of the bowl, and I slice it as thin as I can. The thicker they are, the longer it's going to take for the apples to get soft. And you can run into problems because your crust could be finished and your apples could still be hard. And you really don't want that. This is my 7th apple. I already have 6 sliced apples in there. To that I added 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, a cup of sugar, 1/4 cup of cornstarch, and the juice of 1 whole lemon. And it's just kind of soupy from the lemon juice and the juice that came out of the apple. And that's why you need the cornstarch, because that's going to turn the juices into that not syrup, but more like that kind of jam that holds all the apples together. I cleared my work surface a little bit, and I floured the island, and I floured both sides of my dough. And just going to take my rolling pin here, and I'm going to flour that, and it picks up quite a bit of the flour for a smooth piece of wood. And I'm going to just, in a clockwise motion, I'm going to try to roll this out at sort of 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I might be a little heavy on the flour on the island, on my work surface, but you know what? If it sticks, you really start running into some problems. So I have so much butter in this crust that a little extra flour on the crust is not going to be the end of the world. Notice how I can just pick that whole thing up, and I'm going to flip it over now. And I'm going to brush this off. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I roll it up on the rolling pin, and then I just drape it over it like that. Just going to push it down in here. This will work too. And save the crust for something else. It's going to look like a perfectly acceptable homemade apple pie. So there you go. We're going to prick the bottom of the dish, the crust, and we're going to put our apples in. As you can see, I rolled out the crust and I put the pie plate on top of it because I'm going to use that as a guide to cut out my top crust. Then I'm just going to press the top crust I just laid in onto the sides again, just like I did with the bottom crust, and it's going to sort of seal it to the bottom crust. And we'll put the requisite slices in here. I'm going to do 5. There's 2, there's 3, 4, not that decorative, but more decorative than nothing. And there you have it. The oven's preheated at 375, and another thing you want to do is put the pie on a cookie sheet with foil, because all that juice, it could overflow, and if it drops down into your oven, it really makes an absolute mess. And of course, if you don't have the foil on the cookie sheet, you have a lot of cleaning to do on the cookie sheet. So I'm going to put this in my oven, and in about 45 minutes to an hour, it's going to be ready to go. I'll see you then. Well, it's been about an hour and 15 minutes, and I've checked it, and it's definitely done. I'm going to pull it out. Now remember, an hour and 15 minutes at 375 in my oven. It might be a little different in yours. I really don't look at a timer. I look at the pie, and I smell for the pie in the house. But anyway, there's the apple pie, and I hope you try it sometime. Email me if you have any questions, and good luck. See you next time.